Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rise and Lead Women's Leadership Perspectives. I am your host, ChèRee Wiley, and today I have the honor and the privilege of having Dr. Cassandra Harris on with me to talk about leadership. She comes to us from the fields of informational technology management and governance with 23 years of leadership experience. So she definitely has earned the right to be a part of this conversation. And just to remind you, this month we have been talking about leadership as a calling and a choice. And we've had some conversations, Dr. Harris and I, about the choices that she makes in leadership. But I'm going to give her an opportunity to share a little bit more about her background and her journey in leadership. Welcome, Dr. Harris.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Cherie. I have been in the field for about 23 years. I started in technology as a network engineer and had no idea that leading people and supervision would be a path for me. It just so happens that someone who I admired had a unfortunate circumstance where she could no longer lead and I was asked to lead in her place. But she had given me such a good example of leadership that it gave me the footing that I needed. A lot of prayer, definitely a lot of prayer, asking God for direction. And I finally realized that some of the examples that I'd seen before were not godly, were not what I wanted to exhibit. Now, I went through a lot of hiccups, when I was younger, um, in technology, being one of, you know, many men, a lot of times the only female and sometimes the only African American in the space. It was different for me because I found myself initially doing it quite honestly in a way that wasn't so much Christian. It was um, where I found myself saying, okay, I've got to, fight to get my seat at the table, to be heard. But I think God just kind of shook me, eventually and said, this is not what I intended for you. And I think it really shifted a lot of things for me. I no longer felt like I had to be this tough woman who I was not anyway to try to make things happen. And I think that happened very early in my career, but it was a place that I think I have to remember and I have to speak about because I think so many women get stuck in that place where they're not seeking God, not realizing that that's not the best way for you to be tough and have to present yourself in a posture that is just not getting you the best results. So from that, I recognized I wanted to help people. I wanted to be the help that I didn't necessarily get in my career. Also wanted to make certain that people always grew when they were around me. Um, and it's a selfish place, a selfless place, if you will, where you look back and you say, I've been given such an opportunity, such a privilege to lead people. Now, what is it that God wants from me? What is it that He wants me to do while I'm in this particular assignment? And a lot of times when you go in, there are people that have been completely forgotten,
Mm.
people that have been set aside, that people feel like, okay, there's nothing else that I can get out of them. There's nothing else that they have to offer. And putting things into place, processes in place, monitoring and doing that extra piece that I think is so much a part of leadership is what I enjoy. Um, and bringing people together, tying people together, and making certain that they see the interconnections between us. There's so much in terms of organizations that tie us together. And a lot of times, if people don't feel that, they are not motivated to do more. They're not motivated to even do what they're supposed to do because they don't see a value in what they have been assigned to do. So I think a lot of my leadership style has evolved around making certain that everybody is involved, that everybody feels like they're part of what eventually is called a real team.
That is so, so powerful. And I do think that a lot of times we kind of take it for granted, the evolution of leadership, right? Because I remember being younger leader when I first got started into, kind of being pulled out of my shell to fill the role of leadership, that I looked at other people and I would measure that, like, right, that was
Mhm.
my bar. But to understand that they went through their own process to get where they are. And I think that that's beautiful to point that out. As leaders, we don't have to start out with perfection. Like leadership, just like with anything else, is trial and error. And we try something and we might get it wrong, and then
Yeah,
we go back to the drawing board and try to figure out
yeah,
something different. But and I've spoken about this a lot, and because it's really a part of my leadership philosophy. It's about reflection, like self-reflection. Am I showing up the way that I want to show up? And if not, what do I need to do? What steps do I need to take? Who do I need to talk to? Do I need to get a mentor? What
yes,
process do I need to go through so that I can evolve and become someone that I'm proud of, right? That I become the leader that I want to see. It doesn't just happen overnight. And so I think that that is so beautiful. And you put it out there so well that
thank you.
you didn't start off where you are now. Like your beginning didn't look
No,
like you're in, and you're not done. Like you have so much, but
yeah,
it didn't look like where you are on this path of your journey or this phase of your journey. And so I think that that's really important to note for sure.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And so you kind of talked a little bit about this, about the why behind your leadership choices. Um, but if you could just kind of really even more frame that, like, did that start off, besides the fact that you yourself had times when no one helped you, were there other times where you saw things or there were other things that kind of influenced you to go in the way that you chose to go or that you have gone over the years?
Yeah, I think I quickly learned, there's so many different types of leadership styles, and we put a lot of names to them. But in my mind, especially when I was a younger or just starting leader, there were really two types. There were leaders who had done well in a particular area and had been promoted into positions that led people. Um, and on the other hand, there were people who had also perhaps done well, um, had been promoted, but made a shift. They recognized that their responsibility can't just be the same. It was tough for me initially because I was technical. I wanted to continue in that technical vein. And much like other careers, you have to keep up with technology. Everything changes so quickly. So that was a part of my regimen. And it still is to a certain extent. But what I had to do is make certain that I incorporated leadership styles and learning into that. And I think some people on one side never do that. They never decide that not only am I to bring to the table my technical aptitude, but also I am building teams. Um, I am leading a vision or supporting a vision um, where I have to bring people together. I have to motivate people. On this side, there's a leader that just says, "I just want the work done. I just want them to work. I want them to get done what I need to have done." And the other side is the person who recognizes there's a whole person behind these things that I need to have done. Um, and if you're this person that doesn't recognize that, you're not going to get the best out of your people because all you're concerned about is the bottom line, your own vision, and not incorporating others. You're not going to get the best because, yes, you're good. at what you do, perhaps, but you have a whole team of experts, of people who can present to you new ideas so that you can evolve. And what a missing of talent that there is when you don't recognize that. And so I think that that has always been what I've said is okay, you've always got to go in with that place. Yes, you bring something to the table and you have a title, but there are people that work for you that have talents, that have a seat at the table. And to me, that's almost equal. That's equal because there is an exchange there. It's an exchange there that you are leading them, but you're giving them an opportunity to excel in their gifts. So for me, a part of that is what do they need to be successful? A lot of times, or sometimes, it's not just what they have within them. They need resources. And I'm the easiest way for them to get those things, to advocate for them, to make certain that they have what they need to be successful. So I always in my mind break, and you can see the two leaders.
Mhm.
And there's things in between, but to me, you can always see the two leaders. You can see the leader that says, you know, I am not going to take on the responsibility for the person or the people that I'm responsible for, but I am just wanting to be a taskmaster. I am the person that's going to tell everybody what to do, and I'm going to expect it to be done. And then I think on that other extreme, and there are things in between, but then on the other side are those people that are saying, what do they need to be successful? How can my vision incorporate those? Because those people that, most people like to say on the bottom level, you can't, in order to be a leader, you have to see at all angles, and those are your eyes. Those are your eyes. There is no leader that can see from this vantage point without being in contact with those people. And when you make decisions without getting that information up to you and having the meeting of the minds, there's always something that's missed. These are the fastest decisions. When I'm up here and I make a decision, and I don't consult the people that are below, that's the fastest decisions. And sometimes those decisions have to be made.
Mhm.
Um, but that's not always the best way. That's not a place that we want to stay. The decisions that involve people at different layers are the decisions that are holistic, they are lasting, they're most impactful. And I think that's almost always the case, but it requires work. It's so much easier for a leader to say, oh, I want you to do that, and I need you to do that now. Again, sometimes necessary, but almost always not the best solution, in my
I,
opinion.
Yes. And I 100% agree with that. And studies have shown that
Mhm.
when you bring out the talents of your team, and
Yeah.
it's not all about you,
Yes.
your company will flourish, your department will flourish, whatever you put your hands to will flourish because that is a really important um, element of leadership that does often get left out. And I think another thing that is coming out a lot kind of in with this generation, our workforce looks totally different than it did 30 years ago, right? And so it used to be that you could tell a person or be that type of leader, just do it, just get it done. I don't care about who you are as a person. I don't care about what you bring
Yeah.
to the table. You just follow, and they'd stay in a company for 30 and 40 years, right? That is not the case now because people are
Yeah.
learning that I'm going to go somewhere where I can get what I need because I don't want that type of leader. I don't want the type of
Yeah.
leader who sees me as a number and doesn't see me as a person. And so having that philosophy actually will bring you success on all different platforms because we're watching a lot of industries lose quality
Yeah.
people on a consistent basis because of that mentality of top down. Like
Yeah.
I give you directions. You follow the directives. I don't want to hear your opinion. I don't care how you think about. I don't even care about your better idea. Like, let's just get it done. But now so many companies are starting to understand, no, like you've got genius on your team. One
Hmm.
thing that I noticed a few years back was like this trend of calling in outside help. You're
Yeah.
spending money for tens of thousands of dollars for people to
Yeah.
come in and tell you something that somebody sitting right there could have given you the same idea or better, and
Yes.
actually knows all the logistics because they're in it every day instead of this outside force that doesn't really know how things flow in that environment. And so, it's starting to people are starting to kind of realize, why am I not using the genius in the room?
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
much intellect, so many innovative ideas in this space. Why am and again, why do companies spend so much money hiring people if they're not actually going to tap into the resource for which they hired for, right? And
Yeah.
so you just bring us so many things that are just so very powerful. Did you want to add anything else to that? I hear you.
Yeah, no, you just making me think because one of the things that I'm seeing too is that companies are realizing how much money they're losing, and I think that's what makes people pay attention. The onboarding, offboarding, the costs associated with those activities. You know, those older style leaders who don't care about people, they're starting to come to the surface now because they're costing companies thousands of dollars. So it can no longer be ignored, especially in this economy. So I think that is going to and has started to be a catalyst to change. Um, People where they can are looking for how they can retain people. And Cherie, I think you hit on something that is huge in that different generations have grown up with different thoughts and different things that they value. And one of the things that we see um, other generations coming in with is they're not willing to be disrespected. They're not willing regularly um, for a position or for money. I think, unfortunately, I think in my generation, we were more willing to say, okay, well, we'll look past that. But this just generation is not, and they're leaving, and they're costing organizations thousands of dollars.
Absolutely. And the phenomenon of silent quitting, which is
Hmm.
tied directly into, this concept. I read a lot of things, but somewhere I read when it said people don't leave companies, they leave people. So when a
Yeah.
person quits a job that they, you don't start a job thinking, I'm gonna quit in a year or
Hmm.
two.
Hmm.
When they quit a job, it is because of the toxicity in that
Yeah.
environment that they want to get away from. And so they leave those people so that they can go and still do what they love to do, but in a place where they don't have to deal with that weight. But silent quitting costs companies so much money as well because you have people that are bodies, they're not doing their jobs because they're like, I'm out. Like I'm just waiting for the opportunity to
Yeah.
to leave this place. And
Yeah.
so that also acknowledging that. And what is interesting to me is how many times those leaders, the leaders that we don't want to be, don't even realize when people have
Yeah.
silently quit. Like it's just like completely oblivious to them. This person no longer contributes in meetings, they no longer
Hmm.
talk, they're no longer, trying to share ideas. They've literally been like, you know what? Forget it. Like I've tried
Hmm.
and it's not working anymore. And so that is something that I think that is not talked about enough. Like just that mindfulness. But when you take out the time to know your people as people,
Yeah.
like okay, Sheree's not talking anymore in meetings, and she
Yeah.
always used to contribute. What's up? Like, I need to have a conversation with her because
Hmm.
I need to understand and how much that means. It's been times when people's switches have been turned back on. Like, it's like I
Hmm.
was quitting, but then my boss came to me, and just the fact that they noticed.
Yeah.
Now, okay, let's try something different. We've kind of become created this partnership where now we're working together so that I'm getting what I need. And if what I need especially is going to help the company,
Yes.
what is the harm in that? But just that realization is key to kind of changing the tide.
I certainly agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that.
So this has been so powerful. I promise you we could talk about this all day long because I'm just like, yes. But it is very obvious that you understand, you get it. So my next question
Thank
and
you.
last question to you is, what advice would you give to someone who's kind of, just getting started on this journey or is in a place where they're like, maybe I need to make some adjustments for them to continue to move along this journey.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd like to say some of the good and the bad, if I may. Leadership can be a bit isolating sometimes, because there has to be, just like anything else that you're creating, a time that you're in a quiet space. And that's regularly where you're visioning, where you're planning, where you are kind of charting the course, if you will. Um, and sometimes that is an isolating place. I don't like to say lonely because you're being guided. I really believe that. But the other part of that is making certain that you you can pick up from different leaders things that you like. But I just feel like in everything that we do, we all are so unique. Everybody is not going to like you, but being clear on what your assignment is is so important. And to me, going into spaces, looking at, okay, what's the strategic plan? That mean if you're in an organization, um, looking at that is paramount. Um, and seeing how you can tie into that, you always want to bring something. You always want to leave a place better when you leave than it was. And you want to be able to not look at somebody else to give that report card. Look at yourself. Have I left this place better? Whether someone liked me or not, for me, did I quiet myself enough to hear from God on the plan he has for me to orchestrate in this space? And also, did I hear from God on who I was to help, who I was to mentor? Because it never is just about you. Um, and I think if, and not to be hard on yourself, not to be hard on yourself, because if you're continuing to learn and you're not trying to harm people, I think you can be safe in knowing that you have brought something, I think, that's lasting. And to me, that's always what I want to do. Again, people, they're not going to be everyone in a space that likes you. Um, you know, just like I always call it high school. If you can remember back in high school, there were people who liked you. There were people who didn't like you. They didn't like your shoes and what that's still in corporate America. We
Mhm.
don't like to talk about that, but those types of people, those kind of mentalities are still there. But your leadership has to, you always have to try to make certain it's above reproach, that you are not only responsible to yourself, but everybody is under authority. Everybody is under some level of authority. And what I would say to women, um, you know, I think right now there's a lot going on in the world. You know, we don't like to talk about cultural differences, but there's a lot going on in the world. I would say again, if you can just make certain that you are being true to yourself, that you're not harming people, that you recognize that you want to help people, And it's not just about the mission. The mission is important,
Mm.
but it's not just about the mission. I think you can come away from every assignment feeling like you have brought something to the table and you have done what you've been instructed to do.
So, so powerful. Thank you so much. This has been
Thank
an
you.
amazing conversation. One that we can continue on and on. You will definitely be back on the show
Well,
because we
thank
have
you.
more to talk about. But in the meantime, I just want you to kind of share with the audience ways that they can connect with you because I'm sure that they would love to do that. I know that Dr. Cassandra Harris also is interested in, she will be a speaker or contributor. So having those opportunities for them to be able to reach out to you, I know that she's working on some new and exciting things in the future that we won't put out there just yet. That I have the privilege of being a part of as well. So more to come. But if you could just share with them different ways that they can reach you, that would be really great.
Sure. I am, like you said, Cherie, I'm working on a few things that I'm really excited about. A little premature to share in detail. But if you do want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me via the superpower of parenting. That's one way. I am definitely working on ways to deliver information to women that merge leadership skills and parenting. That's a great passion of mine. And also, if you're interested in having me to come out and speak or having conversations, an initial consult, you can do that as well. Go to that website and I'll respond to you.
Perfect. And I will also include the links or the information underneath the description for this particular episode. As always, it is such an honor and a privilege for me to be able to share this time with you all. You all keep coming back and keep viewing and keep supporting, and it means so much to me. This has been Rise and Lead Women's Leadership Perspectives with our guest, Dr. Cassandra Harris, and I will see you next time. Thank
Thank
you.
you.